I almost started puking, and I said, well, let's break down, let's stop this test, this is getting a bit too much. The other one, the social test at the academic hospital, that's one of our hackers, wearing a hospital jacket, sitting behind a hospital computer, and nobody noticed. Actually, they did quite some social engineering. They ended up, well, first they did get into the systems from the outside, so they could hack the systems to some degree, and they got this information about personnel, who's working where, who has what phone number, what position, for how long have they been there, which proved to be very, very useful for the social engineering, because they could pose as system administrators. And well, people are so helpful in hospitals, so what happened is they would phone people saying, there's been such a fuck up with the system, and I'm not sure, all your data is gone. I'm not sure, I perhaps could, if you give me your password, then, and people would gladly give out their passwords, but being so helpful, being hospital people, well, I got the password of my, could you save his data too? So they ended up having something like 80 passwords. They could access, through these passwords, they could access 8,000 records. Of course, they couldn't print them, or they couldn't print them, which they wanted to do. And it was so easy to just make a new printer in the system, which was actually a file, and take out the files that way. So they got all their information on the nice USB sticks. That's another thing. Everybody seems to, in the Netherlands, I'm not quite sure about here, but in the Netherlands, everybody said, yeah, but now you can steal medical records as well, can't you? Very often in hospitals, you see these files lying around. Well, the problem with electronic patient records is they're much smaller. Most of you will own or have seen one of these small iPods, or you have a USB stick, 1 giga. Well, on 1 giga USB stick, you can store 100,000 full electronic patient records. You can just, nobody won't even see it. You can't take 100,000 paper files with you and walk out of a building. So it makes it much easier to steal information and go unnoticed. Actually, this hospital, that's the academic hospital. Although the hack wasn't that big, well, certainly not as big as the other one, they were quite shocked, and they immediately took about, well, their remedies, their whole response was brilliant. They actually started training their personnel to a really big degree. They've been talking about it at large. They've set up courses. They've set up posters. They're really doing everything that they can to stop this in a sort of nice and gentle and kind way. The response was brilliant. The Secretary of Health about the hack the day after. The privacy of medical data should not be at stake. The stupid thing is, it was at stake, but he sort of refuses it. It shouldn't be, but it is. That's your problem, and he's not going to solve it. Medical data should not be out in the open, but it is. Hospitals are responsible for the enforcement of safety requirements with respect to sensitive, blah, 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 and they should take action. But that is not a matter of money, but only of internal procedures and a proper administrative organization. Of course it's a matter of money. You need specialists. You need to redesign your systems. You need to rethink your architecture, your computer architecture. That is going to cost a fuck of a lot of money. So, but on second thought, at last, November 11, he sent a letter to the Parliament and said that the implementation of the National Electronic Patient Record System, which was supposed to be next week, has been postponed with 1 year. He mentioned the word security 27 times in that one letter. Well, he had never done so beforehand, so I sort of write that off to myself. Suddenly, this sort of set of safety rules, well, never mind the name, is becoming the touchstone within this whole new system. So security is sort of being thought about a bit more. There's going to be this new committee within the department, again rethinking the whole electronic patient records stuff, and the law on medical secrecy might be reassessed. But yet, everything is happening in the wrong way. This Hospital A, the one with the 1.2 million patient records out in the open, of course they wanted to have a conversation with the penetration team. How did you go about it? But they sent the system administrator. They should have sent the board, because it's only the board that can make these decisions as in we're going to redesign the whole system. You shouldn't send the sysadmin. It's not his responsibility. He didn't create the problem. He never got the budget. So this whole problem is being addressed at the wrong level in the organizations. And, well, in the press, there was this, of course, journalists started phoning other hospitals, how is your security? Say, one of the biggest Dutch academic hospitals said, but we can't be hacked. We have a proper firewall. Well, that was the fucking problem to begin with, because they only have a firewall. And it's so easy to enter a firewall, much easier than everybody thinks. In this case, it was a MySQL inject. In other cases, it's another backdoor. And they have the wrong solution. So they come up with this safety norm, this NEN so-and-so, but it's far too wide and far too broad. Imagine it's this really thick booklet of, well, really thick, well, not a booklet, it's a volume, this tome of set and rules that you need to abide by in order to be able to rank as a safe hospital or a safe medical environment. But it's about everything. It's not about computers. It's about whether you have a night porter. It's about whether your plinths are clean. It's about whether there is some kind of, I don't know, healthcare provisions for personnel. And you need to score on so many points. You can, if you have a 7, you pass and you have followed the safety requirements. But you can just pass on other areas than your computers. So basically, if your plinths are really, really clean, they don't care about your fucking computer system because you will still get a general 7. Well, that's not the basis for electronic patient records file, is it? Resume. Technology is being hailed as a cure for all. We've had 3 huge problems in 6 months in the Netherlands: viruses, software bug, and a hack of hospitals. Whether it's actually going to improve healthcare is dubious, and actually I'm not quite sure, not in the next 5 years. Protection of highly sensitive data is severely lacking, and actually nobody seems to really care a hoot, and the people who do know are not sort of into this medical domain. Hackers are not really thinking about it. Those people who are security aware are not yet starting to rethink this whole implementation layout of electronic patient records. The people who are making it have no clue about data sensitivity and data security. And at the same time, this whole electronic patient record thing is politically abused. We get law enforcement, we get ANICs and everything on the side, to the point that I sometimes start believing that this whole electronic patient record is, well, not only, but it's, in part, it's a sort of, it eases other things, it furthers a completely different agenda, that of law enforcement and what have you. That was the story. I thank you for your attention. If anybody has... If anybody has questions, I'm happy to... Yes? Yeah, I'll repeat it after.
Hello? Yeah. How big do you think the risk is that there are going to be criminals trying to make out money of these problems?
I'm not sure, but I've done some research on what happened in other countries, and there are already a couple of examples of people getting medical files and using them to, well, for blackmail, selling information. And medical information is going to become more and more interesting, especially within bigger companies that buy whole new companies. The moment you can say something about the health, general health of the prospective new employers or your prospective new very expensive manager, well, your negotiation process becomes a bit cheaper. So yes, I think people are going to use it for money, and it has already happened. The interesting thing is that that kind of information was not obtained through hacks, but internally. And of course, you should never ever forget that very often problems with information, it's not people from outside hacking. Viruses very often don't come from outside. Most of the time, the original source of viruses is inside, and the people stealing information or abusing information are people inside.
Yeah.
So it's... But more and more people are working with electronic data, electronic medical data. Insurance companies have a series of rules, but there is no medical secrecy rule for data entry people, for sysadmins, for people dealing with backups, for data storages and what have you. These people by now do not fall under the law of medical secrecy. The money that you can gain if you use it for criminal uses, this information, could be quite large. So yeah, it's going to be interesting for some people.
Okay, thank you.
You referred to cases where when people were dying because of wrong treatment. Is there something special cases that were published or that you know of?
No, it's the fact that this idea that at least one person died of this because of this bug in pharmacy programs. It's a rumor, and the rumor is based on the fact that the health inspection had such an awkward phrasing about the history of this whole problem that you couldn't help but think that that was actually the case. And I've spoken with the inspection. Arjen Kamphuis over there, who's been working on electronic patient records as well, has spoken with them. And they won't say, but you get this feeling that somebody, at least one person, has died. Yeah. There was somebody there.
You said that the fourth cause of medical mistreatment is because of entering wrong data. That's only in the Netherlands, or is it all around Europe?
Well, actually, in the Netherlands there have been... No, in the Netherlands there has not been any research about the actual implementation, how people work with it, what kind of data they enter, because, well, we rather have our illusions sometimes, I think. But there has been quite some research purported in the US, and one paper was published in June or July, and that was very shocking. They reported something like 27 different errors that people made at least once per week, but usually much more often per week. And that's one of the investigations that together caused people to state, well, by now it's the fourth cause of medical errors. And that's international research.
Thank you.
I have the question, because the picture you're showing is that we are on a very bad way down the hill, or how you could call it, because people are starting to die from what is proposed to be the holy solution for everything. So is there any fallback solution from the government? Because if one dies, you could say, it wasn't us. If 10 are dying, you say, it's still it's not us. But if 1,000 are dying because someone hacked it, or probably millions, well, I would say there must be a fallback to say, okay, get back the paper.
Well, some people say that actually only when people are really dying because of the blue screen of death, we will have some kind of change in the whole setup. No, but the standard answer is, no, but we're going to have these electronic patient records because people are dying already. We have this problem of medical errors. And there has been some research into how many medical errors are made on a yearly basis, on how serious they are. And that has been taken as a sort of projection of, well, this is what we're going to solve. This is how much budget we are going to not have to spend, because we won't have these errors right now. But the stupid thing is that these numbers are vastly inflated. I compared them to the actual numbers of the health inspection of people dying, people having serious problems because of medical errors. And there seems to be no relation between the two, as in actual reported deaths and what all the research that they use to argue in favor of electronic patient records. So everybody seems to be abusing numbers. But yeah, the obvious reply is, well, by now people are dying too, and we're going to make that less. And I'm not quite sure whether they actually can, not if they continue in this way.
Okay, I still have a second question. When World War II was on stake in the beginning, we as the Germans were very, well, how should